Hello, today I'm going to show you how I roll out my pie crust. I have my 10-ounce ball of pie crust. I always weigh it out because I make big batches, but if you made a regular standard batch, you could just cut it in half and use half the batch. So this is 10 ounces. I have my 9-inch pie plate. I love using these old pie plates from old pie places from a long time ago. They're just the right size and I think they look cool. Have my rolling pin. This is my preference. Any rolling pin will work. And I have a brush for dusting off the flour before I put it back in the pan. So usually when I start, what I do is I flour my silicone mat. And if I were working on a tabletop, it would be the same. I always put lots of flour. And I've heard people say don't use too much flour, but I don't really think you can use too much flour because I'm not working it back into the dough. I'm just using it to keep the rolling pin from sticking. Then what I like to do is I take the pie crust and I shape it. This is cold pie crust, by the way. I shape it kind of into a disc. And then I put even more flour on top of there. Now I'm ready. So I just start out very gently. I'm not trying to press hard. I roll it and I turn it. I roll it, I keep turning it, and I'm just gentle pressure with the center of my rolling pin. And if I see like one edge is up higher than the other, maybe I'll press down a little bit more on the left than the right. I just keep gently turning it. And this mat happens to have circles around it so that I could see how big. Like this says for a 14-inch pan, this says for a 12-inch pan. Well, or maybe that's how big the circle is. So it's like 9, 10, 12, 14-inch. So for a 9-inch pan, I want my crust to end up about 12 inches. See, since I put plenty of flour, I haven't had to go back and get more flour. If it starts curling up, I just press it down. I'm not worried about these jagged edges. They're not going to hurt anything. And now, maybe instead of turning it every time, now I'll start working on the areas that still look too thick. So I'm just kind of gently rolling. If pieces crack, that's fine. It's not going to hurt anything. Even in here in the middle, it's trying to pull apart. You can just press it back together. You can ignore it. I always go in one direction. I don't go back and forth, back and forth. I just keep rolling out in the direction I want it to go. You see, I almost have it 12 inches all the way around. Looking good. If you want, you can take your pie plate and check. You need it, like I said, about 2 inches bigger all the way around. Maybe 1.5 inches. Now what I do is I fold it in half. And I use this brush to dust off all this extra flour. Because when I bake it, I don't want a whole bunch of extra flour. And I flip it over. pie plate back. And I just roughly center it and fold it. And then I gently press it down. I see I'm short on the top. Okay. Now what I do is I curl the edge under. If you were going to make a lattice pie or put another lid on top, you could leave this like that until you get the filling in there. But since this is for a single crust pie, I'm just going to decorate the edge now. And I do that by I lift it up with my both thumbs, and then I start curling it under. And then I hold it and I just keep curling, tucking and twisting. So I'm pushing up with my right thumb, and then I'm using my left hand to kind of twist it under. And you see it's already looking kind of pretty. So if I were really careful when I did this, I could just leave the crust like that on the edge. And it would still look very nice. You see all those little jagged edges just get tucked right back into it. If you were really, I guess, anal or really particular, you could have trimmed it with pastry scissors or regular scissors and made an even edge all the way around. Okay, now take the last part. It's a bit chunky, but I don't worry about it because I know I'm gonna smush it. I'm gonna squeeze it around. And maybe it's because I have a background in pottery. I always just shape the edge of the pie crust to look however I want. So I kind of mold it, and I don't worry about if I rolled it right the first time. I just worry about getting all that crust tucked under. And then I squeeze all the way around to make sure it's all the same width and height. Okay, it's pretty good. It's a little bit fat over here, but it's pie, so it's okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my thumb and my fingers to decorate the edge. So I'm just pushing in. If it starts sticking or your butter's getting a little sticky, you can put it back in the refrigerator for a while, just like 10 minutes, and that'll get it back ready to work. Usually I just dust my gloves with a little bit of flour, and that keeps it from sticking. And there are a myriad of ways you could decorate this pie crust. You could use a fork or a knife handle. You could push down just with your finger. You could twist it. You could snip it with scissors. But I like the way my thumb makes this perfect little point. And I've done it so many times. I always end right on the perfect spot. And then I go in here and I just kind of shape it up, make sure it's all covering up the edge. And since this is all butter crust, I'm going to put this in the freezer for 30 minutes. And that's before I blind bake it, because this is for a lemon meringue pie and I need to pre-bake the crust. But you could also leave it in the freezer overnight or for 3 or 4 months until you were going to use it, as long as you kept it from getting freezer burn. And there it is, my perfect 9-inch pie crust. Thanks for watching.